What's going on, everybody? Got a tutorial here for you today. I know this console's pretty old. I just realized I'd never even done a tutorial on how to open the Xbox 360 Slim, so thought I'd say screw it and go ahead and make one today and post it up. Um, just so you know, we're not going to reassemble it, and we're not going to fully break down every single piece and part. If you're trying to do something else like switch the motherboard and stuff, I'm actually going to have another tutorial for that. So this is just how to get the case off, get to the guts of it, all the tricks and stuff to get in there and get to the inside. Um, to start off with, uh, I've got a little flathead screwdriver here. This is kind of a mini one. There's a couple of things you kind of have to pry. And then I've got a Torx T8 and T10 screwdriver bits right here. You can have any screwdriver. I use an electric one. And then, as you can see, I wear gloves. This is pretty common for me. I deal with a lot of this stuff, so I try to have anti-static gloves on. For you, what you're going to be doing, it'd be very unlikely that you could, it's real rare to have a static charge on anything. Your main thing though is just when you're dealing with it, do not have it plugged in, because if you did have an electric static charge while it's plugged in, obviously that could cause you some issues. Not to mention the fact that just having it plugged in is silly, because you could touch something and electrocute yourself. So we're going to dig right into this. The hardest part is honestly just getting the outer case off. They made this one kind of complicated. Um, you've got to pry all the stuff off of there, and it's not real clear like other consoles where you just see the screws and take the screws out. So let's get right up in here. First thing we're going to do, and it really doesn't matter which side, but we're going to pry these grills out right here. You got one on each side, although each side is different. And I've seen some people that want to go through with one of those special opening tools and go to each pin and lightly pry it out. You do not have to do all that. I've pried open hundreds of these at this point in my life. And all you got to do is just take that flathead, wedge it underneath one of the grill slats, like right here, and then kind of pry upwards, and it pops right out. So you really don't have to worry about being too careful with that. Now, there is this inside layer, and this one's already popped up a little bit, it seems. This one is nearly impossible to pull off without breaking a little bit. It's kind of got permanent connections or semi-permanent connections, where the plastic is actually, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of adhered to this layer. So when you peel this up, if you're going to be popping the tabs and stuff like that, and there's not really any other way around it. It's just the way it is. So as you can see, that there's little holes all the way through. All you're going to do is you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to go through and start prying outward and upward. And that's going to pry it out. Now this one has been opened before, so that was easier than it's going to be for you. But that's still the main process there. This side's different, obviously, because it has the hard drive compartment, so that can just pop right out. And then we're doing the same thing with that one. Then we got the second plastic layer. Look, that one's already half fallen out. All we're doing is we're just going through each one, prying it up, and popping it out. Now, actually, I probably should have done this each on each side, but that's okay. When you first look at it, you probably won't tell, but there's actually like a rim here, okay? And this is actually easier to take off than it looks. I'm going to try to get a good view on it. So, right here on this rim, hopefully you'll be able to see it. There are tabs. You can see I'm kind of playing with the tab. You'll see that the tab is big enough where if you've got a small screwdriver, you can stick that small screwdriver in between the tab, and then you just pry outwards and pull upwards, and it'll pop that right out. And then most of the time, by the time you've done a couple of them, the rest of them will be loose enough where you can just pry those out as well. So we're just going around. You'll see the tabs. Oops. Now there's one on this one that's small. There's one right here that you can't really stick anything in between. That one you can just come at it from the side and do the same thing. Otherwise, all the rest of them are large. So there's that one. We're going to flip it real quick and do this one. Same concept. We're just kind of popping them out one at a time. Okay. Now I will say when you're prying over here on this side, right there you've got your that's your Wi-Fi module. So don't get too rowdy trying to pry it out right there, because you could cause some damage to it if you like grind into it. Could cut a trace on it or something. So just be careful. That's also the first side too that we're gonna start prying the main case off, because that's essentially what you have to do. Again, since this is all black, I'm not sure how well this is going to come out in the video. But there's similar clamps right here that we just used, or we just removed from that kind of O-ring looking thing, or rim, whatever you want to call it. These right here are easy to pry off. There's 2 of them. And your best bet is the clips go down to this side. So if you put pressure here, right where the brake is in the case, you see it's split. You put pressure on this side and push downwards. What that's going to do is it's going to push those clips out, and then you'll be able to take the other piece and pry it outwards, and boom, you've got it open. After I've got it open, so you don't accidentally have to pry it open again, flop the clips so they're outside of the case like that. That way it won't accidentally, while you're doing this side, clamp back in and then make you have to do it all over again. So we're going to flip it. Now this one is the pain. It's got the same clips. It's got one about right here where the plug is that goes downwards, and then you've got another one about right here that goes upwards. So these two go in opposite directions. So what you're doing is you've got to put pressure right in the crease about where this back one is, which, like I said, is right around here, right around where the seal, the Microsoft seal would be. That's about where that clip is. So you want to put pressure and push downward right there, and then at the same time push down right here, only on this half of the case, and you should be able to pry it apart. Now, I've done that a lot, and I promise you your first time is not going to look like that. But as you can see, there's that one clip, and you see that one goes up, this one goes down. That's why it can be such a pain, especially if it's a console that has never ever been opened before. They kind of get set in place, and it makes it that much harder. But really, it's just all about leverage, because see, as I push down, you can see that this clip is going down as well, and so that's essentially taking it off the thing that it connects to, and then you just want to pry this one at the same time. So it's kind of like a one motion thing that takes a little bit of practice, and then we're just going to carefully pull that out, and we've got our bottom half off. Now, real quick, this one, the screw was not in here. So usually right here behind this clip, there's a screw right underneath it. You'll want to take that one out because that one's connected to the hard drive caddy. So if you've got to get down in there and get that stuff out, that screw has to come out. And then with the T, we're using a T10 first. You got to take the screw out for the Wi-Fi module. Set that aside. Now we're down to this. Now, all your big black screws, those are the main case screws. So if all you're wanting to do is like get to the disk drive, maybe the disk drive is messing up and that's all you need to get to, you only have to take out these big black ones, because that's going to release the top shell, and that's all you're going to need to do. So we're going to take those out first so you can see which ones. Actually, that works, because some of these will some of these break. So there's like these little tips on the upper case, and that's what these screws attach to. And after they get older and the plastic gets more brittle, they can snap. And it looks like I've got one right here that's snapped, which is perfect because I can show you how to take care of that. Oh, and as you can see, I got another one. It's just sitting there spinning. So we got two of them that are cracked. Okay, now, if you're dealing with a motherboard, if you're wanting to do a motherboard swap or anything like that, you would take out all the rest of the screws. You've got your X-clamp screws here. That's for the main clamp system that holds the heatsink on and stuff like that. Again, if you're just dealing with the disk drive, or maybe you're just opening this so you can give it a good clean out and stuff like that, all the rest of these screws can stay. So we're going to flip this back over. You kind of lift it from the back, and you'll see it'll start wanting to separate from the faceplate. Faceplate you can just kind of lightly pull out. And you're going to want to be really careful dealing with this faceplate because it does have a really delicate ribbon. And I'll show you that here in a sec. So we got the case off. Now we're going to kind of flip it up here. And now you can leave this attached if, you know, like I said, if all you're doing is dealing with the disk drive, or you want to give it a good blowout of air and stuff like that, then you could leave this on. But just keep in mind that with the way this ribbon is attached, it is very delicate. So I would go ahead and take it off so you don't accidentally damage it no matter what you're doing. And to do that, you'll see that there's a plastic that it goes around the connector. You have to pop that over the connector so it can clear it. And then you push out the connector lock here. And then you'll see that loosens that up. And it pops right out. And so now we're free. Again, if you're going to the motherboard, you would need to remove this RF module as well, and there's two screws here. Those are T8. Oh, and I forgot to mention the X-clamp screws are also T8, while everything else is T10. Now, if you remember, we had two screws here that are jacked up. So as you can see, this one still has a piece of plastic. That's the piece of plastic that's supposed to be attached to the main upper case that's busted. So what you can do is, if you have any type of pliers, in fact, I'll show you, I've got a little needle nose pair of pliers here. It's probably a little bit harder, but any type of pliers or clamp, you clamp and hold that piece of plastic on this side that's broke off, and then you unscrew this while you're holding it. Same concept as, you know, if you're putting a nut on a bolt. And as you can see, the piece of plastic came out, so now I can get that screw out of there. And then there was a second one right here, and you can see there's a little piece of plastic right here that's broke off. So what we can do is we can clamp it with our pliers. And you do have to put a good amount of pressure when you're holding that piece of plastic, because if you don't put enough pressure, it'll just slide and turn. So you got to really clamp down on it. All right, so now we got all our screws out. Now, this is your main breakdown, and this is pretty much all the parts of the tutorial. I just will point out a few things. Here's your hard drive caddy, and this is what I was talking about, that there's a screw right here. So if you're trying to remove that for some reason or get under it, make sure you don't forget about that screw, otherwise you'll break something. As far as the rest of this, you can go through and start disconnecting your disk drive and get into other parts and sliding the fan shroud off of here, and you're at the heat sink and the fan. And that's pretty much it. Believe it or not, reassembling this is actually a lot easier because, you're just kind of reconnecting. When you're putting the case pieces back together, just keep in mind that those clamps, my shell pieces, those clamps, they got to clamp back together correctly. So it's a little bit of a balancing act to get them all in there. So just remember when you're putting it back together, you're basically just doing the steps in reverse. And so that's pretty much it, guys. It's not the most complicated thing. Because I've done it so much, there are a few parts that are going to end up being way easier for me than they were you. Like peeling these guys off, like this can be a real pain. And, I remember the first few times I did it, I was worried I was going to break these. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder on your end to do it. I just have done it so much. Plus, this was a console that looked like it had already been opened. It didn't have a seal on the back. So it's usually a little bit easier to open the second time around. And so, yeah. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for the tutorial. Like I said, if you want to get to the motherboard and stuff like that, you can check out the channel page, and you'll see I've got some other tutorials that go through all that part. So anyways, guys, until next time, bye.